Hey, game raisers. So, one of the big challenges for teenagers today is distraction. And a big challenge for everybody in the world today, but specifically young people who are trying to study, get on with exams, do the business in school, is being stuck on their phone. And I speak to thousands of students, and when I speak to parents in my clarity calls, they will say the same thing over and over and over again. I can't get them off the phone. Their head is stuck in a screen. And this whole TikTokification of society has led to a serious problem with focus, concentration. And I hear this from talking to teachers in the classroom saying, look, they just can't focus, can't concentrate. Even to write a page today can be a struggle for lots of students. So, one of the big challenges is how do you get young people today to want to study? And there's lots of different challenges with the curriculum. Only yesterday, 2 days ago, I had a fantastic call with a 13-year-old student, and it was brilliant. I mean, he said to me, what's the point in studying some of these subjects? You know, why do we have to sit in school for 8 hours? Why can't we just do 4 hours, pick a subject we like, and then go out and play? And he made a lot of sense to me. So here's the big challenge. A lot of teenagers today are struggling. And my big brief when I do work with students is to motivate them, to want them to study. So I've put together a few notes, and I think this video will be very, very, very useful. And only last week I was speaking to a teenager, and they said, well, one of my big problems is retention. So I do not study a week in advance. Why? Because I'm going to forget everything. So I leave it until the night before, and then I have to cram, and then I get stressed, and then I get anxious, and they can't perform in the exam. So they get overwhelmed. They're caught in this cycle, this loop. So here's the big challenge. What we need to do is to help them to knuckle down, get the work done. And the secret sauce in all of this, because what I really do when I'm working with young people in my coaching programs, in my seminar, I'm helping them create discipline, helping them create structure, helping them to create what is really the secret sauce, which to me is a strong study habit. And this thing of habits is absolutely crucial. And, you know, when I'm working with young people, what I do try to get across to them is that, you know, nobody really wants to study. Some people do, but most people, it's a struggle. It's like going to the gym. So for going to the gym, and this is now January of 2025, so a lot of people will be creating their New Year's resolutions. Fitness will be a big part of it. So it's all about getting in shape, getting healthy. And the best thing that you can really do, because we know 3 weeks in, after about 21 days, a lot of people have broken their New Year's resolutions and they've fallen off the wagon of whether it's fitness or giving up alcohol. And for many of my students, what I'm trying to do is to help them to create positive habits. So how do we create a positive habit when it comes to study, when it comes to school, when it comes to homework, when it comes to getting the work done? There's a couple of hacks that I do want to share with you. And often it's not what you do in the classroom, it's what you do outside the classroom. So, you know, my starting point with all my students is the miracle morning. So I'm training young people, literally showing them how to get out of bed in the morning. And I know for a lot of parents, there's holy war at home, trying to get them out of bed, the alarm going off, trying to get them into the car, get them out the door. And that's a challenge. Whereas what I do with young people is I empower them to take responsibility for them to get out of bed and to create a strong morning routine. And this has a massive bleed effect. The second thing that a young person needs is a study zone. So it's about, and again in my seminars I say, ditch the phone, get into the zone. We need a quiet space, we need an area, we need a zone to get our work done. And that zone should have the third thing, which is a good light. So whether that's an LED light, whether the desk is positioned against the window, but it has to be a nice, bright space. And this way then they can focus, concentrate, get the work done. The next hack, number 4, is what I teach students is something called study sprint. So my study sprint is called the 30-minute study sprint. It's based on the Pomodoro technique. That's a brilliant productivity technique. So a Pomodoro is like an Italian kitchen timer, 25 minutes, 30 minutes to get a task done, and then you're on to the next task. And that's hugely powerful. It's very effective. And within that 30-minute study sprint, I teach them my methodology, the SWOTS, the SWOTS formula of how to study effectively. And that's all based on research, John Donlofsky's amazing paper on strengthening the student toolbox. And really what we're doing is we're giving students a framework to be able to study fast, learn quickly, and to be able to get the work done in a way that suits their learning style. The fifth big hack in order to be able to build this study habit is to create amazing notes. And my notes are called whiz grids. They're one-page summaries. There's an example of a whiz grid right there. So it's like 9 boxes on one page. It's super powerful, very effective. Only this morning, I was working with one of my students who was struggling with study a couple of months ago when he came to me. He says the whiz grids have been an absolute game changer. And what are they? Well, they're one-page summaries. We're able to filter lots of keywords onto one page. And this helps students create output, something to show for their 30 minutes or their hour of study. The next big hack in all of this is, small wins, the power of small wins. So what we want to do is set small micro goals. And now that it's January, a lot of people are setting goals. Well, I want to create micro goals, small wins. So what is a small win? Well, that could be knocking out 10 flashcards in Irish. That could be sitting down to do a maths problem. That could be getting to English class on time. That could be even getting into school today. And it's when you build up all these little small wins, that's what creates positive habits. And in your brain, every time you achieve something, that fires off dopamine. So it's small wins. How do you win the big game of school? It's all about small wins. And even on a Monday evening, in my Monday motivation calls with students, we start off with our wins for the week. And we celebrate wins because God knows in school it can be such a negative and in some cases toxic environment too. I work with lots of students who've been bullied, they struggle in school socially, they might have social anxiety. So we're giving them a toolkit to teach them to be able to buffer against all those stresses and strains in schools and to be able to build positive habits. The next hack, number 7, is to use a clock, use a timer. So one of the big things is students, young people have to get good with time. And I encourage them to get something like this. And, whether you're sitting down to study for half an hour, whether you're doing a maths problem, is to actually go up against the clock. Because in exams, you're up against the clock. And what I really want to do is to give them a way of organizing their time, managing their time, and being up against the clock so they're getting the work done faster. The 8th hack in all this is to gamify your study. So this is where, let's say, for example, they're doing a maths problem. Can they get a maths problem done, a section A of an exam paper done in 5 minutes? So it's to go up against the clock and gamify it. And can they beat their time from yesterday? Can you, and I call these learning laps, when you're doing a review section, when you're reviewing your whiz grid, when you're learning stuff off, can you do a learning lap? So this is where you're literally going back over what you've studied. And, say it took you 2 minutes to do a review of a topic yesterday. Can you get it done today in 1 minute 55? The next hack in all of this is to use one of these, a whiteboard. Whiteboards are so effective. And the reason I like whiteboards is because now you're getting into active learning. There's 2 types of learning. There's active and there's passive. But this is where you take out your whiteboard, you start to bullet point the keywords, the key information, and this can be hugely effective because now students, especially kinesthetic learners, are doing as they're learning. Which brings me to number 9, which is one of the best study techniques of all, which is the Feynman technique. The Feynman technique, after Richard Feynman, a phenomenal lecturer and physicist, is all about pretending to teach other people. And literally, I have had a lot of students, mostly girls, line up their teddy bears in their room, take out a whiteboard and pretend to teach their class. That becomes their class. And that's hugely effective because now what you're doing is you're, instead of reading over something, which people think is effective study, it's not. Now you're actually teaching, and this is far more powerful. So that's the Feynman technique. So really, the secret sauce in all of this is when you put together all these hacks, we're building a strong habit. And if you do this out over 3 months, a 90-day period, which is when I bring students on board, we coach them over 3-4 months. We're helping them to build strong study habits. And this is the secret sauce. And the sooner they can get into building that study habit, the easier it becomes, the more effective their study becomes, and they will start to get better grades. So if you like this video, click a like. If you want me to go to your school, go to raisethegame.com. If you want me to coach your team, go to raisethegame.com. And remember, guys, day by day we are raising the game.